Welcome, everybody. I'm Fatih, and we have Mo joining us today to talk about AI code editors, specifically providing Arc XP context to the editors. Mo, I really appreciate how you made AI approachable for our developer community in your last blog post. We're excited about these tools like Cursor Windsurf, Visual Studio Code Copilot, when paired with correct context and rules that can be a game changer for our customers' developers. If you don't mind, I'd like to drive our conversation in Q&A style to explore this topic further together. So why don't we start with your role and what makes you the best person in the company to design the correct context for Arc XP editors?
All right. Thank you, Fatih, for having me here. I manage the engineering consultant team, which helps onboarding our clients. So we oversee the development team over the clients, their development experience, how they want to get things more efficient and to the market. So they're MVP, so they can onboard. And we also help with the partners. So we also see like how the partners themselves have their development experience, how they onboard new clients, how they onboard new members to their team, and how fast they want to be efficient to getting there. And also I help with the pre-sales as a solution architect. So basically, I oversee that from the beginning. When we're talking about efficiencies and time to onboard and time to market, always the struggle is like, how efficient can we get there and be able to build an arc? So it just makes sense to leverage the AI practices right now and the AI tools that are being presented in the market to be able to help with that. And this concern comes not only when we're involved with the client from the beginning, it does not only come from the development team, it can be as high as we involve with different stakeholders from the CEOs and CTOs of the company. So they want things more efficient to save time, to save money, and in the future be able to optimize on the product that they bought, which is Arc in that sense if they become onboarded in our platform. So recently as well with the AI becoming more and more involved with everyone, like with every different aspect from just cheap GPTs for chats and all that, they're the CTOs and CEOs specifically, they start asking directly, like, how can we leverage that? So I guess we find that it's a common struggle for all clients to find a starting point. They want to use it, but they don't know what the starting point is. So we try to share expertise between our clients and what we internally try to help our clients with, and what we have experimented with in that sense. So
Cool. You kind of answered my next question that like, how did you guys come up with like Cursor or other AI tools in customer enablement team and, creating the Cursor rules file that you shared, earlier. Let's move on to like, how does something like Cursor rules or giving the rules file to an AI editor helps our customer developers to maybe specifically like ramp up a new developer on their Arc XP projects?
right. So cursor rules is an example only of rules that need to be set, as mentioned in the document or in the blog. The rules that need to be set for any AI editor helper, right? From Copilot to Cursor, there's a bunch out there, but it's the same concept. You need to set some rules or guidelines for this editor to follow. It's going to go search for things online. It might get wrong information as AI hallucinate, so you want to put parameters for it. The more rules you put in there that are more programmatic to use, then it's easier to get to the end result faster, right? So basically the whole idea here is not like you're gonna autopilot in the sense of like, they're just gonna keep using it alone, the rules, because even if you work with Arc with different platforms, you will see that it hallucinates. So you're gonna have like a human in the loop, which adds context to the project. With the more experience the human, the easier it is. But the whole idea is to get the scaffolding, the ready to get the initial things, the wrappers that are do not change ready, right? And contrary, a lot of the thought about cursor rules and all these rules is that, well, maybe I can just use an open source to be able to help with the AI, the RAG models could just search the internet for. But if you have a closed system, kind of ecosystem like Arc, which has pretty well documented APIs and how to do the features and how to do the content source and the different parameters in the project, it actually makes it easier, right? Because you can teach these rules pretty straightforward. You can put it in a file. You already have the init and everything set up in terms of the project routes and all that. So you don't have to worry about this. And you just insert the features in the right places. And this is all programmatically written into the Cursor rules.
So it acts like a shortcut information for the LLM to just find the right information for a specific type of task, right? That nicely segues us to, I'm curious, like, what are the very common, sort of gotchas, like mistakes or limitations and challenges you encountered with, AI code editors, with, providing Arc XP context. It is still relatively new, an evolving field, but I'm sure, like, right now it's not perfect, but what are the common things that you encountered that, like, our customers should pay attention to?
That's a great question. So, as anybody who has worked with AI, even if it's a little introduction to using it daily, you'll see it can have hiccups and does mistakes, right? It hallucinates. It's because it's based on, as everybody knows, it's based on prediction, right? It's just a prediction of what should be written next, and tokenization of the articles and how many tokens it has in the context, right? So sometimes definitely it hallucinates and does not give the right information. That's why, again, if we go back to the cursor rules, if you give it these direct things, if you know, and from the documentation is like, do this, not that, it will follow it. So that makes it easier. So definitely the more thought you put in the rules, the better it will give you end results quicker, right? One other thing to keep in mind is that with these editors, you need to always have checkpoints. So you can revert back to any step that you're like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Instead of going into the code and maybe like going line by line, if you see from the bigger picture it's not acting correctly or it's giving you wrong results, just go back to and revert to a checkpoint. And this is where Git and commits can come in play because you can have strong checkpoints you can work with.
Yeah, that's very much aligned with also, our customers in the development flow. Depending on how much time they invest in like testing, frameworks, AI code editors can actually, follow that. If you provide them steps that, like, hey, after every change, make sure you run the tests, they pass. If that could be as simple as an integration test that checks your page to be rendered correctly, or, whatever the rules you want to bake in your testing.
Exactly. And I think that's a great point, Fatih, because you can have the cursor rules and then next to it, and this is pretty common as well, is the project MD, like the project plan for what you want to do and talk about. This is where you can actually explicitly mention when you're prompting to one of these editors, is that every time you finish a step, go back and update the file, remember the step that you finished, and then highlight it maybe with a cross-out checkpoint or something like that. And it's quite frankly does that pretty well. Every time you test it, it goes back, does a checkpoint, and then continues editing the file. So that's a sanity check for yourself to know what it finished, and for it as well, because it keeps context of what it did.
And models like Claude, they tend to do more than you ask,
Exactly.
which is, creating a plan and making it to just follow, like, or implement only this step, giving that
Right.
guardrails would be very beneficial.
Exactly.
So I want to move on, like, to like, since you're in customer enablement team, like, you're working with our customers very closely, you have one of the most common sort of like real life examples you work with our customers. Since it's fresh, some of our customers start using, or you guys are utilizing in customer enablement team. I'm curious, like, what are the real world examples of the AI, editors that you guys use, are cursor rules to either like save the customer or, the customer enablement significant in amount of time.
So I'll talk about the customer enablement, and actually it's helped a lot in our POCs. So we have the POC when I'm a solution architect serving as a solution architect with the pre-sales team. Sometimes we do demos mostly for our clients, and sometimes they have like one feature that it's nice to have like in the POC and just a proof of concept like a weather widget. And that's actually a real life example. We had a client that a prospect came in and wanted to do a weather widget, and they gave us the weather widget, the APIs for the weather widget that they use and all that. So basically, with the cursor rules, the one that's in the file, this is the one that we used exactly, and in the blog exactly to create a feature in a content source in minutes, just by writing, please create this weather widget with the information that you know about Arc XP, that following the cursor rules obviously does it automatically unless you tell it not to. For example, in the platform cursor specifically, you check and uncheck like use cursor rules or not. If you want to give it its own rules to something else. And it created the weather widget with the feature content source, meaning the APIs, which fetches the APIs, the data layer, and the feature itself, the component that was created, and was able to render it in PageBuilder. This is for POC, so that helped tremendously. You don't have to waste time in creating new weather widgets or things like that. That was a couple of minutes effort of work. And then another real life example, I think that's for Arc and for everybody that has a SaaS platform or any product, really. There's always code refactoring that needs to be done, and efficiencies and also upgrades, runtime upgrades and all that. It's just the World Wide Web, just they always have that, right? Whatever you do. So this is a great example of doing this because the rules and the updates are pretty specific, right? So if you tell it right in the rules what exactly you want to update and what exactly that you want to upgrade, it can follow that pretty straightforward. So this is a real life example for clients that do not have a big development team and they don't want to waste their time on it and the roadmap. It's an easy refactor of that because, for example, Arc, when there's an upgrade coming and deprecation coming to older versions, we have things that are pretty well documented on how to do that, right? So this is easily incorporated into a cursor rule. You put all the documentation there in the cursor rule, tell it to follow it step by step, and you would be amazed at what it could do.
It's almost like creating a migration specific or upgrade specific rules and say like when it's time to upgrade, say that follow these rules because we in our documentation in our my products we often cover these topics deeply, that if there's any breaking change for dependencies that we use, let's say like a style components, there's often like their migration guides that we mirror in our own migration guides. That is a good way to like create an AI powered workflow to save time. That second example especially resonates a lot with my day to day. And
Right.
even if the gains are small, like AI is not necessarily upgrading the code directly, but it's guiding you through it. It's very, very valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's way more examples that we can talk about in terms of what our clients are envisioning. It's like the adapters for migration into Arc to write the mapping adapter. This is something that we're exploring right now, and our clients are exploring and playing around with it. Again, since it's close parameters with properties from an old CMS to our NS schemas, it could be them as long as you give it the rules, the exact rules that you want it to follow.
It's an interesting point you're touching because my content migration specifically is very schema strict, but
Okay.
also it requires someone to translate from a platform A to platform B, where LLMs are the like perfect fit for unstructured or like changing the structure of something,
Right.
even either from like a well-defined, source or an unstructured format to something that is well-defined, which I really like that example. And I'm glad that you guys are exploring that. So,
Yeah.
zooming out a little bit, what like in general, like our customers, and every single developer, it's in their minds to how do they can utilize, AI, code editors or, things like we're providing cursor rules or rules definitions. Holistically, what type of advice would you give to our customer developers considering AI-driven coding workflows?
That's a great question because AI could be definitely everybody has access to AI right now, but it could be intimidating if you really want to productize with it and use it in your day-to-day workflows, right? You're like, okay, can I trust it really? Can I not trust it? The stance there's a mixed feel about that, right? Everybody wants to use it, but they're a little bit scared of the idea sometimes. So what I would advise, as we did here, is start small and experiment, right? Don't tackle the whole project, tackle a feature, right? Just take one feature and do it and isolate it, put it in its own repo maybe. That's great actually with the Arc. You can do like with the micro experiences, you can take like a small bundle and work on smaller features here and there, right? So this would be a great way. So you don't hurdle the whole project and you're free to experiment. So you would isolate it, do a POC with it, see how far it can get you, right? This is the first thing. Small and expand. The most important thing, and that takes time, the more you know Arc, obviously us, my team, this is what we do every day with guidance, looking at the documentation, guiding our clients. We have a better sense of if it's hallucinating or not. What I would say is like you have to establish really clear guidelines for your curse rules, right? And like do your studying with the help of AI as well, which is the interesting part, right? When you do getting out of the documentation, knowing where to start, ask AI to help you with that first, right? So you can ask, maybe go to into ChatGPT even before going to Cursor, one of the editors, ask it to give you all the documentation for a specific thing that you want to create, right? And then from there, you can start going back and creating your cursor rules. So treat it as a buddy, basically. Like you can always go back and work with it. You do not use it for a specific reason and that's it. Always have it in the loop, right? Get comfortable with using it. Even you can use tools like I use called Whisperer, which you actually talk to it. So and the command voice like translation where it's like from speech to text. I always do that because I give my thoughts, all my thoughts into it, right? I don't like when you're writing, sometimes you're like, what do I write? Like you're thinking, but with Whisper or one of these voice commands, just keep going, right? And that's pretty important. More context, it helps it give you more of what you're searching for, right? So that's the second thing that I would definitely suggest. Human review is essential, right? It definitely speeds up your development and all that, but you can see all these memes online, like on even Instagram, LinkedIn, everybody that's using AI is like, they say like it gave me beautiful structure, it gave me everything, and the code was like written with comments and all that, but nothing worked, right? So the human involvement is essential to review everything that is doing. So instead of like thinking about it that is going to replace you, no, think about it that it's going to be as a partner, right? And you do peer programming with it. Think of every step. Let it give you details so you can go in and review what it's doing. So first, you're not blind on what's going on, and if there's something going happen in the future, you know where to go. And at the same time, you will learn actually because it give you ideas that you did not think about before. And that gives us to the next point, which is encourage continuous learning. Everything is improving, even AI day to day. Like the models every day that are released are crazy, right? Like way faster than anybody had thought. So always see which models fit more. Don't be rigid about being strict to using one model or another. Always experiment with different models. Like ChatGPT was amazing, but the Claudio was amazing for like general search and all that. Then Claudio is amazing for coding. Now ChatGPT has Codex, which could replace all maybe their model using there that could be better. Then Gemini came out with 2.5, and it's just blowing everybody out of the water. So always stay updated with all that. See what fits. Don't be rigid to one model. That's definitely something that I would recommend highly because the difference in output is drastic, even from the beginning of the year till now, and the models are coming out. And obviously, like you can try to always incorporate it in the existing process, right? You don't have to like say it's not a one or a zero. It's like AI or not AI. Just incorporate it slowly in your day-to-day projects, right? And then keep experimenting, innovating on it, and basically you have to like iterate to improve it. It's the same thing. It's not a replacement, it's just a partner. Like if you treat it like that, you're gonna get a clearer vision on how to use it.
I love you said treat it as a buddy, right? It's similar to like training. Let's say, a new team member joined your team and you are kind of onboarding them to either your custom project or the framework or the platform that they use, in this case, Arc XP, right?
Right.
With the documentation, everything. There's an expectation everybody wants this vibe coding. It's like that
Yeah.
full autopilot that I'm gonna prompt something, it's just gonna do perfectly. Like we're far from that. But you're right, like every month, every week, new model comes out and it's just like there's this like race going on. So believing in that future that this is gonna get better. Maybe we will see the days that like, one prompt done, like, no intervene needed. But for the time being, we have to be a little bit more control freak to see what's doing, understanding what's it understanding. And my point there is, I like the idea that like, we're onboarding the AI into the project. We know like it's extremely fast to read and understand the current status of a project, right?
Yeah.
Usually what I try to, when defining the guidelines, what I try to do is like almost all these editors have like ask versus code or agent
Mhm.
switches. I keep it
Right.
in ask, meaning like I know for sure it's not going to change anything. And I
Yes.
usually like test its knowledge. Like, do you know how to work with API A or B? Do you know the differences between these, thing, right?
Right.
From data schema to specific actions that we, do in any platform. This is regardless of Arc XP or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's almost like testing their knowledge, then building the trust with that, sort of out,
100%.
right? So with
100%.
that, if it's getting something wrong, that's a great clue for like that's a rule. Like let me tell it
Yep.
that like when thinking about running tests, don't go off and run the test with the whatever the open source project that we use. Maybe you have a script that wraps and maybe sets up the test environment or does more stuff with it. And you can always say that when running tests, always use the script. Don't go off and run stuff. That was an example, but
No, but I
um,
um I agree with you on that point, and actually that's an interesting point in the sense of like the cursor rules that are in the blog that were written, the way that they were written were a little bit, it was an experimental way. Instead, I put a prompt, I put some rules in, put a prompt, and then I saw the result. It was not working. I did not go fix the code because again, I wanted to get good cursor rules out there. So I was like, well, I'll review the code. I will not fix it. I'll fix the cursor rules. I'll add more rules there. Do another prompt. See what it got wrong, what it got right. I saw like, okay, now it's way better, but it's still missing a couple of things. I did not change the code. I went and got the review of like, okay, these things it did it wrong. And this is the build of trust. I went back to the rules and I updated the rules again with the things that it did wrong. Then the third time, fourth time, until it became like, okay, now it did it right. This is where I want. So this is a repetitive thing, so I can create more feature based on that, not a specific thing that I want to fix.
it's a perfect point. This is something I heard from one of the podcasts talking about like AI tool usages. There was a very smart like comment about it. Don't fix your output, fix your prompt, right? That
Exactly.
was, or refine your prompt, which is a really, good point because that has a compound, you know, outcome that prompt or that refinement will be collectively helping like that AI agent to have the right context or narrowing down its guardrails to not make mistakes. So we're getting close. I just want to get your opinion about like how do you see the role of AI code editors and agents evolving for enterprise platforms like Arc XP?
So that is a great question, and I think like you touched upon it a little bit in one of the comments they made before, in the sense of like in the future maybe one prompt is gonna create everything. We already see that in one in like Firebase Studios, for example. They started for Google, they started experimenting with that, and there's a lot more out there where you do prompts and it just does everything, right? So that's definitely still does a lot of mistakes, obviously, and does not get you where you want, but it definitely is something to look at. Like, okay, this is happening, right? There's already experiments right now with it. probably in a year or maybe less, I don't know, that everything is going exponentially fast. It will be way better than it is right now. So in terms of like CMSs like Arc, the way I see it is like Page Builder editor, for example, we're going to have a code editor right into Page Builder editor. You wouldn't even have to go outside to an IDE. Probably it's just going to be platform integrated right into it. So it will know your auth tokens. It can create a feature right away, knowing the products that you have purchased from Arc or you have in your bundle. So it knows where to guide you with creating your blocks and all and features, right? Definitely, like it will be more and more rules driven, and this is where kind of the line becomes of like you need experimental experienced developers compared to people who prompt engineer. They know how to use prompt, right? So more rules are going to be out there for maybe for Arc, and this is why we are also driving the initiative in the repo. There's the GitHub that you can add your own rules there. If like experimented with it, it's like just you're helping everybody else and us as well to review it and maybe edit it and say, okay, maybe you can change this till we try to reach, I'm not going to say perfect rules, but something that would get you where you want easier and faster with simpler prompts, right? And this is pretty important for CMSs and big like Arc, which are not widely adopted like in the World Wide Web, not like Next.js or one of the platforms out there or libraries that are just being used. Obviously, when agents come in play, right, more and more into that, it will be a multi-step workflow where it does not only maybe does the work, can run the repo, upload it, and probably Arc itself might have some agents incorporated into it that could do the tests live for it. If you want to do it on the environment instead of local, do a workflow maybe inside like WebSched. If you want to trigger an event, right? So you do a WebSched, a pitch to platform, something Arc called pitch to platform, and then triggers an event. This whole process could be automated with agents. And maybe not only in that sense of coding, maybe it's also going to help with the day-to-day editorial work, right? To trigger events and do workflows based on that. The most important thing, obviously, with AI is to build in like governance and security, right? This is maybe AI would help with the security checkpoints. Maybe it will help with the auditing, right? Maybe it will help with the permissions control. It definitely there's a huge avenue in security itself. Everybody's afraid of AI from security. I think it could move into helping with security and helping with initial, like maybe someone is abusing the APIs. So AI driven in the platform itself could inform that like, okay, there's an abuse to this API because you're using this and that. Maybe like you have an infinite loop somewhere or something like that. And obviously like it will heavily involve in continuous improvement of the platform by a feedback loop. So that would definitely help in the future of it, right? And finally, this is like the end state. I think like this is where we're like, okay, we are now need to get scared a little bit if it's if you're like an editor or an editor in chief and you're not even a developer and you just have a thought and about how you want the platform to look and how the website you want it to look in the workflow, but just by prompting will change all the permissions and everything inside Arc, and the final product is presented to the end user just by prompt. This is like a little bit of a three or four layer deep steps that could happen that will involve agents, that will involve like there's an agentic workflow totally within inside Arc, and we can trust also the AI that it will not hallucinate or hiccup with the guardrails that are put in place. So it's a future that we can look at, but I don't think it's impossible. This is the thing. I think it's possible, but not right now.
Our intelligence team, Arc XP has an Arc XP intelligence team that actively exploring, agentic workflows primarily within the editorial workflows, but there's definitely an aspect of like, how it impacts developers, like our customer developers, and, an example that you gave, like Page Builder. That's an exciting feature, slightly scary in some aspects.
Yep.
But the like autonomy it can bring, the insights it can bring is really exciting. Well, thanks for sharing your insights, Mo. It's exciting to see how AI and human expertise can work hand in hand for our customers. And we would love to hear how you use AI coding agents day to day within your Arc XP development workflows in both GitHub discussions, in our developer portal that you can access to, as well as what Mo mentioned, that we're really excited to hear how your specific like cursor rules or your code editor tools, that's why Mo created the like rules in a public repository that we're open to collaborate with our partners and our customers. Well, thank you very much, Mo, and
And thank
we're
you, Fatih, for
excited.
your time. All right.